The farmhouse kitchen went dark at sunset, not because there was no lamp oil, because the day's work was done. A family in rural Provence, 1880. The evening meal had ended 2 hours before. Bread, cheese, vegetables from the garden, wine watered down for the children. The bowls were washed. The table was clean. Now they sat by the fire. The father carved wood. The mother mended. The children played quietly on the floor. No one ate. Not because food was unavailable. The larder held bread from the morning. There was cheese, preserved fruit, nuts from the autumn harvest. But eating outside of meals wasn't something anyone thought to do. The next food would come at breakfast, 12 hours away, and no one's body expected otherwise. This wasn't unusual. Across most of human history, across most cultures, food happened at distinct intervals. Morning, midday, evening, sometimes only twice a day. The time between meals was empty, intentionally so. Not because of discipline, not because of rules, because the structure of daily life created natural boundaries around eating. And within those boundaries, something happened that modern bodies rarely experience anymore: complete metabolic rest. This wasn't accidental. When researchers began studying populations with exceptional longevity, Okinawans, Sardinians, certain Greek island communities, they noticed something that didn't fit nutritional models. These populations didn't eat less food. They ate less often. Meals were substantial. Caloric intake was adequate, sometimes generous, but the gaps between eating were long. And during those gaps, metabolic markers shifted in ways that don't happen when food is constantly available. Insulin dropped. Cellular repair mechanisms activated. Inflammation decreased. The body, given time without incoming energy, did something it couldn't do while processing food. It cleaned itself. Modern populations eat, on average, 5 to 7 times per day. Breakfast, mid-morning snack, lunch, afternoon snack, dinner, evening snack, sometimes a late-night snack. This isn't gluttony. It's habit. And it's recommended. Eat small meals throughout the day to maintain energy. Don't let yourself get too hungry. Keep your metabolism active. The advice sounds reasonable, but it solved for the wrong problem. What mattered wasn't belief, it was results, and the results, measured across decades, tell a different story. We optimized for convenience. That's the core of it. In the mid-20th century, food manufacturers faced a problem. How do you sell more food to populations that already have enough? The answer was to create new eating occasions. Breakfast became essential, not because humans historically needed it, but because cereal companies needed a market. Snacking became normal, not because bodies required it, but because shelf-stable packaged foods needed distribution. The language shifted. Grazing became healthy. Keeping your energy up became necessary. And slowly, imperceptibly, the space between meals disappeared. The assumption was simple. If eating 3 times a day is good, eating 6 times must be better. More opportunities for nutrition, more stable blood sugar, less hunger. Physiologically, that's not how it worked. Here's what we measured. Calories consumed, nutrient intake, satisfaction levels. Here's what we didn't. Time spent in a fed state, cumulative insulin exposure, autophagic activity, mitochondrial turnover. The ancient farmer wasn't thinking about autophagy, but his eating pattern had already created the conditions for it. This is where modern systems struggle. What made traditional eating patterns work wasn't restriction, it was rhythm. Break it into principles. Principle 1. Meals as events, not continuous access. In traditional households, eating required preparation. You didn't grab something, you made something. Bread needed baking, vegetables needed washing and cooking, meat needed butchering and roasting. Even simple meals required fire, time, effort. This created natural boundaries. Eating happened when the household paused to prepare and consume food together. Outside those times, the kitchen was closed, not locked. just inactive. When eating requires effort, it happens intentionally. What happens when you remove this? You get constant access. Packaged foods that require no preparation. Shelf-stable snacks in every room. Vending machines. Drive-thrus. Delivery. The barrier between wanting food and eating food collapsed to seconds. And the body, which evolved to handle periodic feeding, began receiving food continuously. Insulin never fully drops. Digestion never fully rests. The system designed for rhythm runs on a constant hum instead. Principle 2. Hunger as information, not emergency. The Provençal farmer knew hunger, not starvation, not deprivation, but the sensation of an empty stomach between meals. It was ordinary, expected, temporary. Hunger signaled that the body had processed the previous meal and was ready for the next. It wasn't a crisis requiring immediate response. Modern culture reframed hunger as a problem to solve instantly. Hangry became a recognized state. Blood sugar drops became emergencies. Hunger became something to prevent rather than experience. The solution? Keep food readily available at all times. But hunger isn't just appetite. It's a metabolic signal. When the stomach empties and insulin drops, the body shifts fuel sources. It begins accessing stored energy. It activates cleanup processes that only happen in the absence of food. Brief, regular hunger triggers resilience. Constant satiation creates dependency. This is what convenience replaced. Principle 3. The fed state has a cost. Digestion is expensive. Metabolically, hormonally, systemically. When food enters the body, everything shifts to processing mode. Insulin rises to manage glucose. Digestive enzymes activate. Blood flow redirects to the gut. The liver begins packaging nutrients for storage or use. This is normal, necessary, but it's also a state of activation, not rest. Traditional eating patterns gave the body 12 to 16 hours daily in a fasted state. During that time, insulin sensitivity improves. Cellular repair mechanisms activate. Damaged proteins get broken down and recycled. Inflammation markers drop. The body maintains itself. Modern eating patterns give the body 4 to 6 hours in a fasted state, mostly during sleep. The rest of the day is spent processing incoming food. There's no space for repair, only management. And management, over decades, isn't enough. The gap between meals wasn't punishment, it was maintenance. But we'll come back to why that mattered. Why modern life struggles. The average American now spends 15 to 16 hours per day in a fed state, not by intention, by design. Breakfast at 7 a.m., snack at 10 a.m., lunch at noon, snack at 3 p.m., dinner at 7 p.m., snack at 9 p.m. Each eating occasion triggers an insulin response. Each response takes hours to resolve, and before one fully resolves, the next arrives. The body never fully enters a fasted state during waking hours. This creates a compounding problem. Insulin resistance builds gradually. Cells stop responding as sharply to insulin signals. The pancreas compensates by producing more insulin. Blood sugar stays elevated longer. Fat storage increases. Energy becomes less stable. None of this happens overnight. It accumulates across years. And because it accumulates invisibly, it gets attributed to aging, to genetics, to bad luck, not to the structure of eating itself. The consequences show up as constant low-level fatigue that coffee can't fix. Energy crashes between meals that feel like emergencies. Difficulty losing weight even with caloric restriction. Brain fog, irritability, dependency on regular food intake to feel normal. These aren't character flaws. They're metabolic adaptations to a feeding pattern the body wasn't designed to sustain. The Provençal farmer didn't think about insulin sensitivity, but his daily rhythm, work, meal, rest, gave his body what it needed without requiring him to understand why. His metabolism stayed flexible. He could work hard before breakfast without collapsing. He could go hours between meals without his mood destabilizing. Not because he was stronger, because his body still remembered how to run on stored energy. Modern bodies, fed constantly since childhood, often don't. This is where fragility enters. It wasn't ignorance that created snacking culture. It was opportunity. In the early 1900s, most food was perishable. Bread went stale, fruit spoiled, meat needed immediate cooking or preservation. You couldn't carry food casually. You couldn't store it indefinitely. So eating happened where food was prepared, at home, at inns, at communal tables. Then several things changed. Refrigeration became common. Preservatives extended shelf life. Packaging made food portable. Mass production made it cheap. And suddenly, food could go anywhere. To work, to school, to cars, to desks. The snack food industry didn't create demand. It created supply. And supply, made cheap and convenient enough, generates its own demand. The messaging helped. Power through your afternoon with a quick snack. Don't skip breakfast, it's the most important meal of the day. Keep your energy up with regular small meals. None of this was malicious. It was marketing built on assumptions that seemed reasonable. More eating opportunities equals more nutrition. Stable blood sugar equals stable energy. Preventing hunger equals preventing harm. The problem is that metabolic health doesn't follow intuition. Brief hunger isn't harmful. It's regulatory. Constant food availability isn't protective. It's destabilizing. But by the time the research caught up, the infrastructure was built. Vending machines in schools, snack aisles in every store, drive-thrus on every corner, and 3 generations raised to believe that going 4 hours without eating was deprivation. It started quietly. In the 2000s, researchers studying longevity began noticing a pattern. Caloric restriction extended lifespan in lab animals, but so did time-restricted feeding, even without reducing total calories. The variable wasn't how much they ate, it was when. By the 2000s, the term intermittent fasting had entered public consciousness. Studies on humans showed eating within an 8-hour window improved insulin sensitivity. Skipping breakfast didn't harm metabolism, it often improved it. Longer fasting periods activated cellular cleanup processes that didn't happen with constant feeding. The ancient eating pattern, meals separated by long gaps, wasn't deprivation. It was optimization. Now there's a resurgence. People experimenting with meal timing, skipping snacks intentionally, rediscovering what hunger actually feels like. Not as punishment, as recalibration. Practical translation. You don't need to replicate a 19th century eating schedule to understand what worked. You just need to recognize the principles. Create space between eating occasions. 3 meals, no snacks, or 2 meals, or 1 meal and 1 snack. The specific number matters less than the gaps. Long enough for insulin to drop, for digestion to complete, for the body to shift from fed to fasted. Even 12 hours overnight, dinner at 7 p.m., breakfast at 7 a.m., creates metabolic rest most modern bodies never experience. Let hunger arrive and pass without panic. Hunger peaks and fades. If you wait 20 minutes, it often resolves on its own. That's not willpower. It's hormonal cycling. The body releases ghrelin to signal hunger. If no food comes, ghrelin drops and the body accesses stored energy instead. This is normal. It's not an emergency. Relearning to tolerate brief hunger restores metabolic flexibility. Make meals worth the wait. When you eat less often, you can eat more substantially. Traditional meals were filling because they had to be. The next one was hours away. Modern snacking creates the opposite. Small, frequent portions that never fully satisfy. Eating larger, more complete meals, spaced further apart, tends to reduce total food obsession. You're not thinking about food constantly because you're not eating constantly. Recognize that metabolic rest isn't optional. The body needs time without food, the way it needs time without light. not as deprivation, as a required phase of the cycle. Sleep, fasting, seasonal variation. These aren't luxuries. They're maintenance. Even partial adoption changes outcomes. The farmhouse kitchen is quiet now. Fire out. Table empty. The family asleep upstairs. Nothing in this scene was special. Just ordinary life in a time when eating had structure, when meals were events and the space between them was simply space. No one thought about metabolic flexibility, about autophagy, about insulin sensitivity. They didn't need to. The rhythm of daily life, work, eat, rest, created the conditions automatically. Modern research is now validating what traditional eating patterns never needed to prove. Constant eating isn't protective, it's taxing. Hunger isn't dangerous, it's regulatory. Time without food isn't deprivation, it's repair. And the body, remarkably resilient, still responds to rhythm when given the chance. We didn't lose this pattern because it failed. We lost it because we built a food system that made constant eating effortless. And effortless, in this case, wasn't better. The old way wasn't perfect, but it was rhythmic. And rhythm, across millennia, is what kept metabolism stable.